Interesting observations were made by Wehrmacht Colonel Leopold Stiedel, commander of the 767th Grenadier Regiment of the 376th Infantry Division, about the behavior of German generals at the surrender of Paulus's army in Stalingrad. The generals, who in fact no longer command anyone, are again engaged in endless discussions about what awaits them in Russian captivity. At the same time, they begin to select things that can be taken with them into captivity. In this case, the concept of absolutely necessary turns out to be very stretchy. One of them includes French cognac or special chocolate for pilots. Another wants to go into captivity with 5 suitcases and numerous small hand luggage and pretends that it goes without saying. Just as striking is the cold-bloodedness of the Soviet side, which at first acquiesces to this unusual behavior as well. The commander of the 8th Army Corps, General Geitz, signed an order for the Corps, which stated, "Anyone who wishes to surrender will be shot. Anyone who throws up the white flag will be shot. Everyone who picks up bread or sausage dropped from the airplane and does not hand them over to the warehouse will be shot." But exactly 2 days later the same general with his not small luggage surrendered as a prisoner of war. Of course, we must admit that not all German generals behaved in this way. Having said goodbye to his lieutenant's son, General Stempel committed suicide. Lieutenant General von Hartmann, commander of the 71st Infantry Division, said, "I intend to go to my infantrymen in the front line tomorrow at the latest. In their ranks and among them I will meet death. Captivity is a dishonor to a general." Hartmann was not a talker. His division, which in 1940 took the northern forts of Verdun, quite deservedly nicknamed Lucky. But its luck ran out at Stalingrad. Von Hartmann actually went to the front line, stood on a railroad embankment, and began shooting at the advancing Red Army. He was looking for death in battle and found it. In the Wehrmacht, not all generals resembled him. For example, General Friedel von Senger, who surrendered to the Allies in Italy, in his memoirs with due seriousness wrote about the incredible suffering he endured in captivity. In the late summer of 1945, most of us, that is, those who were not pending indictment, were loaded onto a train and sent north. From my personal belongings, I still had a rubber bathtub, some tea and a matchbox. At the Brenner Pass I took a bath by placing it on the tracks between the rails, as there was water nearby, and then shared my tea with a comrade. At Heilbronn we got off the train and walked the tedious way to the new camp. We had no strength to carry our luggage and the guards threatened us. I left my traveling trunk right on the road and felt like an outcast, deprived of everything. And this man, commanding the 17th Panzer Division, was to make his way to Paulus in December 1942 to Stalingrad. In 1944, under his command, the 14th Tank Corps held positions at Monte Cassino for several months. What is curious, devoting a whole chapter of his memoirs to the description of this battle, the general wrote nothing about the Polish units operating there against his troops. He was very impressed by French units manned by Arabs. He wrote about Americans and Englishmen, New Zealanders and Gurkhas. But somehow he did not succeed with the famous scarlet poppies at Monte Cassino. Either he did not like Poles very much and did not want to write about them, which is not surprising for a German, or they shocked only themselves with their heroism, but not the enemy. Anyway, but General von Zenger was a very experienced combat general, and at the same time did not hesitate to seriously write about the tragedy he experienced in captivity in the bathtub and crying with pity for him girl. Poor General von Zenger, the unfortunate victim of evil guards. The girl cries not because the balloon flew away, but because of the general, who in captivity was left without a personalized rubber bathtub and a native trunk. But von Zenger, at least, suffered from the separation from his beloved bathtub, being with his former subordinates in captivity with the Allies in good conditions. But his Stalingrad colleagues were worried about personal property in a completely different, catastrophic for ordinary soldiers and officers situation. Divisions of these generals lost most of their personnel. A head of the surviving German military had a very difficult captivity. They went to surrender, already being classic deadbeats, literally starving to death. Typhus was rampant among them.